and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray, and each of us has turned to our own way. And the Lord laid on him the iniquity of us all. And remember the part of the passage where it says the people offer him wine mixed with myrrh? That's actually like a drug that could numb the pain a little bit, that some people could offer to the criminals at that time. But Jesus refused to take it. He wants to take our punishment and our shame that we deserve in full awareness and in totality. He's going to take the cup from the Father and drink it to the last drop. And so in the greatest act of self-control, the all-powerful God became weak, stayed weak, didn't flinch, and took the shame. He is saying to us, there is nothing I wouldn't do for you. And that is how a true king looks like. And when this true king, which no one can recognize at that point, was walking toward the hill of Golgotha where he was going to be crucified, there comes the encounter of Simon from Cyrene and Jesus. Now Simon was still part of the crowd at that time. He didn't know what's going on. Jesus was so beaten up, he couldn't carry that heavy beam anymore. And Simon, that lucky man among thousands of other people who was also standing around and watching, was chosen. And when I was reading this story before, when I was young, I remember and I thought that this Simon is so kind. He volunteered and had compassion. That's why he helped Jesus. But no, the passage said he was forced to carry the cross. Now, the Bible didn't say much about Simon except that he was with his two sons. But you could imagine what his reaction could be. Surprise? Of all these people, you pick me? I'm not even from here. I'm from Africa, man. I'm just passing by. Or maybe he could feel a little bit annoyed. No, I'm not here for this. I'm here for the Passover, remember? I'm not here for this. But he reluctantly picked up that cross and he started to walk with Jesus. And on the way, the people continued to shout at him. The people continued to hurl insults at Jesus. And now that Simon is up close and personal with Jesus, he gets to turn around and look at this man whose cross he was carrying. But they didn't see him with anger. He didn't see any regrets either. He turned around and see Jesus and he was filled with, wait, that can't be right, compassion? He turned and see his eyes were filled with, wait, gratitude? You mean he actually loves these people? And with every insult that was heard with Jesus, Jesus responded by taking one step closer to the hill of Golgotha. When people are mocking him, Simon, here Jesus responded by saying, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. Those can't be the words of a criminal. And so as Jesus picked up that cross and experienced Jesus, his life completely changed. If we look at the passage here, we may be a little bit confused and also it's a bit strange. I mean, of all the things that the author Mark could have said about Simon, he didn't say much. He only said he was with his two sons, Alexander and Rufus. And you're like, why? Of all the things, why do you give me the name of the two sons? Commentaries tell us that the only reason why the author Mark would include the names of the two sons is that his reader at that time would recognize who they are. Alexander and Rufus became followers of Christ in the early church. The Apostle Paul, when he was writing Romans, he even mentioned the name of Rufus and thanked Rufus' mother, so Simon's wife, for being a mother to him too. In Romans chapter 16, verses 13, it says, Greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, and his mother, who has been a mother to me too. Simon's whole family become believers after this encounter. As Simon may have missed the Passover meal, he realized he was actually carrying the cross of the real Passover lamb. And this picture, carrying the cross, is exactly what Jesus talked about and wanted earlier when he was with his disciples. Jesus was predicting his death when he was with his disciples, and he said, I'm going to die, but I will rise again. And the disciples were very, very concerned, very scared. And even Peter, he even took Jesus aside and said, hey, don't say something like that, man. You cannot die. And Jesus, in response, in Mark chapter 8, here's what Jesus did. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan, he said. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up the cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. And we see many symbols of cross nowadays. We see it everywhere. We see crosses in our jewelry. We see it in the decoration of our home. What is the cross a symbol of? The cross is a symbol for death. Taking up the cross and follow Jesus means that our old self has died. He's asking for a total surrender. Taking up the cross means that we deny ourselves and we treasure Jesus more than anything else. It means we are concerned about the things that God is concerned about. It means that we take our dream and we give it to God and let Him take us to where we need to go. And so I love this picture of the encounter of Simon and Jesus, because as Simon took up the cross, by doing so, he went from being a part of the crowd to now being a part of the story. After all, this passage really is about someone going to a place of his dreams. But Simon from Cyrene is not the main character. This passage is not about Simon's journey getting sabotaged, getting an inconvenient detour. This passage is about the Almighty God wanting and going to a place He has always wanted to go. And that is back to the garden with us. So much so that He completely denied Himself. And He took our shame, took our suffering, died on the cross, so that we can have life in Him. 10 years ago, I was still living in San Francisco, and I was leading a youth group in my church, and there were about 25 teenagers, and there was a girl who is part of the group, and she's from Taiwan, and she is very sweet, right? Very friendly, very sporty, and we play tennis every other week almost, and we became really good friends. And then somehow she was spending more time with me than other girls her age. And so I asked her one day, I said, hey, Sherry, her name is Sherry. I said, why don't you spend more time with the girl in the group, huh? And she just responded saying, oh, I don't know, I guess I just really enjoy spending time with old people. And thank you. So one day, I was meeting with another good friend of mine. I told you guys about her in my last sermon, right? She's my ex-college roommate who has everything, right? She's beautiful, she is so smart, good career, great family. And at that time, she wasn't a Christian. And so she was on all this traveling adventure. And she was doing a lot of things that I wanted to do. And she asked me, Joanne, have you been to Monterey, down the Pacific coast? And I said, no, I didn't really get to do that, but oh, it's so beautiful, you have to go. We're gonna come out next week. Do you wanna join us? And I would say, no, I can't because I have commitment in the church. At that time, I was spending a lot of time with the youth. I was at the church 3-4 times a week. And so my weekends are gone. And after that conversation, I was feeling very uncomfortable. And I was really struggling. And I was really wrestling with God. And I said, God, yeah, why? Why am I not having a life like that? I could. Why am I serving you even? Is it stupid what I do? And then sometime later, another friend invited me to a whitewater rafting trip down in the American River. And she asked me if I would join and camp out there for a weekend. Now there's something you need to know about me. I don't like roughing it, and I don't like dangerous sports. Especially when the name of one of the rapids is called the meat grinder. Right? So the potential thought of falling into water, into the meat grinder, isn't exactly appealing to me. But just because of this inner protest, I said, yeah, of course I'll go. I'll go. And for the most part of the trip, we didn't have any mobile phone reception. But on the way back, when I finally got signal, I got a voicemail that was left a day before. And that was Sherry's mom. And she called me and she said, something happened and Sherry is not well. Can you please come? That was the day before. And so I called her right back and I drove right away to their apartment, and when I saw Sherry, I was completely shocked because she became a completely different person. It turns out that she is bipolar. And when I saw her, she lost her motor skills. She couldn't move and couldn't walk the way she used to. She became completely emotionless. She would claim that she sees a wall in front of her when there's nothing. And I was shocked because I had absolutely no experience dealing with such thing. But her mother told me that it actually runs in her family. Her uncle also has that. And it happened to Sherry a couple times in her life where under extreme stressful situation, it could push her into clinical depression. And it happened over the weekend. Now when that happened, she didn't want to do anything. She didn't want to go anywhere. And she didn't want to see anybody. But she said, if she could see me, but I wasn't there. And for days and weeks after, I called her every day and I visited her, and eventually she recovered, but I couldn't, even to today, couldn't get that picture out of my mind that the moment she needed me the most, I wasn't there. I missed the moment where I could really show her that I care about her. I missed the moment, the opportunity where I can really share God's glory. I missed the cross. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Christians shouldn't have fun. I'm not saying Christians shouldn't travel. I, of all people, am a big fan of traveling, and I'm like #YOLO kind of girl. But in this specific incident, in this specific prayer that I have with God, I felt God is answering my prayer by opening up my eyes to see what is more valuable in life. It's like He's saying to me, of course, Joanne, of course you can live a life that is only about today. But you would have missed this. Don't miss the cross. And I know some of you may be like Simon. You don't come to church specifically looking for a cross to carry. But God said it doesn't matter. I will meet you wherever you are. It doesn't matter why you are here in the church. Sometimes you find the cross. Sometimes the cross finds you. But when you encounter it, pick it up, give it your all, because through it, you will experience the abundant life that God has promised you. And the cross for you could mean today that you know someone is in need and you need to be there for them. And maybe someone is struggling through faith. And I believe that there are certain people that only you can reach. Take up that cross. Or the cross for you may mean that you are going through something very difficult. And you have absolutely no idea just what good this can bring. Don't be a mocker. Or the cross may mean that you see some sort of injustice, and now you cannot pretend you don't see it anymore. Or the cross can simply be that you see someone new walking into the church. No one is welcoming them. And your old self will tell you, just stay where you are. Leave it alone. Stay where you are, where it's comfortable. Stay with the crowd. Be selfish. But Jesus came to set us free. And among many things, he freed us from passivity. He's not a passive God. He was at work since the beginning. Even though his ways may not be what we expect him to be, he never called us to be on the sideline. Jim Elliot was a missionary who literally carried his cross his entire life. He was sharing the gospel to one of the most dangerous tribal group of people down in Ecuador. And it was those same group of people whom he was serving that killed him in the end. So I want to close my sermon by sharing one of his quotes that people found in his journal. He said, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose." Is Jesus, do you really see Jesus as your king? Or are you just mocking him? If you really see Jesus as the king, then take up that cross and give it your all and expect to share.